Good morning, everyone, and good morning to everyone also watching on Facebook. Welcome to our program this morning entitled Marketing and Web 3.0, How Technology Players Are Changing the Game. The present situation has forced companies to swiftly transition to digitalization. While this pulled down the economy for many countries, it nevertheless forced businesses to think like a technology company and to push their companies forward and to implement long overdue technology plans and embrace digital tools. And marketing is no exception. It is that with that we would like to have this webinar entitled Marketing and Web 3.0, How Technology Players Are Changing the Game. This morning, we will hear from a very distinguished panel of speakers who we've also invited for our Electronic World Marketing Summit 2021. At this point, I will introduce now our first speaker, who will also give the opening remarks. She is a globally award-winning brand architect, experienced risk crisis reputation strategist, movement maker, and marketing communications innovator. An internationally awarded champion of marketing as a force for good, her projects demonstrate that you can hit your business goals while still doing good for the country. She is a leading communications, marketing, public relations forerunner in the sphere of digital transformation, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and other emerging technologies. She helps companies navigate through reputational, education, and information gaps in any nascent technology. Currently, she serves as the executive director for the FinTech Philippines Association, the largest financial technology trade association in the country. As a champion for technology and financial inclusion, she was the convener for the World FinTech Festival 2020, and she is currently the convener for Digital Pilipinas and World FinTech Festival Philippines 2021. She co-founded Geyser Maklang, one of the leading PR, marketing, communications, public affairs, and risk issues and crisis management companies in the Philippines. Please all welcome Ms. Amor Maklang. Ms. Amor, good morning.
Chino, is it just me or introductions like that really make you feel uncomfortable? Thank you for the very kind words. I'm here in behalf of Miss Irene Loren, who's the president of Prime Trade, who will be doing the closing later. And you know, when she first invited me to speak in the EWMS conference, and I saw the other roster of Philippine speakers, there were particularly two speakers that stood out. And it is actually my honor to introduce the keynote today, Mr. Edwin Bautista, and he knows this, and it makes him extremely uncomfortable whenever I mention this. So I will say it just the same. Close to 20 years ago, when I was starting out in my marketing career, Mr. Bautista gave me and our company one of our earliest breaks. He was at that time, I believe, either the head of marketing for, is it iBank, sir, or was it Union Bank already? And interestingly enough, my journey through Web 3.0 and also in FinTech has actually been ushered by the runways that have been created by Union Bank, not just for the banking industry, but also for the country in general. So on this note, we all stand on the shoulders of giants. And I'm not just talking about Mr. Kotler, who is the father of marketing, but here in the Philippines, we've seen a slew of leaders who've really taken on the problems of the country and made it their mission and aligned it with the objectives of their organization as well. Thank you, Abid, who is my neighbor. He's like, Amor, I have no choice. You know where I live, right? So, but Abid has been really instrumental in opening up the gates of who I refer to as one of the important horsemen of the internet and of technology, which is Microsoft. You've really reached out to many of us in the community And we're very, very happy to be part of the ecosystem that you're building for all of us. Thank you as well to Agnes of coins.ph, Miss Agnes Padilla, one of the pioneers, not just in crypto, but more importantly, in the blockchain space. And she'll be talking about the regional perspective and the regional journey of coins. Used to be coins.ph, and now it's just coins. And of course, how can we not be grateful for the presence of Mr. Francis Kong, who will be sharing later how the tone at the top is really what's going to help determine a company's marketing success in an era of technology. Unfortunately, she could not be with us today, but one of our speakers is Miss Nina Aguas, and she's also one of the co-conveners of Digital Pilipinas. And between Nina and also Edwin, you'll see how the CEOs and the champions have taken on the role of not just advocate, marketing head, and also a chief technology and marketing officer. So all of those roles seem to meld together. I just wanted to very quickly share with you this advocacy that I'm so grateful to Miss Irene for supporting, because it seems that, Chino, if you'd be so kind to just run 3 slides. I felt that her selection and her curation of speakers really reflect and speak to what we stand for in Digital Pilipinas. Next slide, please. So, Digital Pilipinas, in essence, is a 3-year-old technology that really started when, with the help of, and I'm very, very proud to say, with the support of Union Bank, they decided and agreed to put together a Philippine team and sent them off to what was at that time the biggest fintech, technology, finance event in the world. Close to 60,000 sea of people descended upon Singapore, and we were a motley group of technologists, fintechs, and advocates. And together, we launched our tech up advocacy called Digital Pilipinas, and supported by many of you who are here today. Our objective, next slide please, is to really take on the problems of the country using technology. And we would like to thank our supporters, both from the government of Singapore and also the government of the Philippines, via the Monetary Authority of Singapore, and at the same time, the Department of Trade and Industry and the Department of Finance. Next slide, please. So in a nutshell, Digital Pilipinas runs on 5 legs. The first is all about education through thought leadership. The second would be the mass adoption of certain nascent technologies. It's not Hidlin Diaz that first put us on the map. It's really our propensity for technology uptake. We're part of the top 10 crypto users in the world, and maybe Agnes can talk a bit more about that. It's not just about texting, but even for things like esports and gaming. Oh my goodness, I'm sure you've heard of the phenomena that is Axie Infinity. I'm so excited. I'm supporting a team. And I'll tell you, we are number one. The kind of revenues that have been generated by those play to earn players have now exceeded the revenues coming out of Hong Kong. So can you imagine? It's now a gig economy predicated on technology. We're all about upskilling and reskilling. And I'm proud to say that outside of Singapore, in November, we will be the first country to launch an accreditation and education program on the blockchain. And this will be launched during Singapore FinTech Festival. How do we make sure that we get technology adoption down to the grassroots, to the spot where it really matters? We're doing a non-traditional job fair and job matching. So this would be more for non-traditional gigsters in the economy. So Now you don't have to finish a 4-year course to be part of the digital economy. You could be a shoutcaster, you could be a gamer, you could do play to earn or have a gig in e-commerce. Now, technological, legislative, and policy advocacy. So many of you are part of our technical working group, wherein we've aggregated many of our concerns in order to either take down or create new enabling regulations. Our objective is to really create and steal from the financial services sector the sandbox model that has proven to be very successful. And we hope to be able to replicate that across various national line agencies. And tomorrow, together with the MAS and the DTI and Proxtera, we will be launching our first sandbox for migrating close to 5,000 MSMEs into e-commerce. So we're very, very grateful. ERB, a lot of that has really, it really started with our advocacy in 2013 with Eureka. We have 8 ongoing sandboxes. We talked about e-commerce as a priority. Last September 9, we just launched the PropTech Consortium of the Philippines, together with the leading players in the real estate sector, and also Dr. Tito Ortiz and Mr. Ron Hos. Education is something that we're very passionate about. InsurTech and HealthTech last August 10, together with the biggest players in the industry, InLife, Etica, Plia, Priya, and KPMG. We've launched the Health Tech and InsurTech Association of the Philippines with the intent of teching up the delivery of healthcare services. Now, environment and sustainability, together with Globe, we're looking into tokenizing carbon credit. So please do support us on that. One carbon sink at a time. Diversity and inclusion, creating more opportunities for women. Thank you, Agnes, for being one of our champions for that. Breaking the glass ceiling in innovation, technology, and finance is something that we continue to champion. Esports, we talked about and can go on and on about it. Last but not the least, together with the unheralded white hat hackers of the country, the true immune system of the internet, together with the biggest corporations like Globe and Gcash and RootCon, which is the largest white hat hacker conference in the country, we're going to be working on making a cyber secure and a cyber defended Philippines. So on that note, I'd really like to encourage all of you to be a part of the marketing movement started by Miss Irene here in the Philippines, together with Dr. Kibria. I will leave it to her to talk more about that, but it is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to the world of digital Pilipinas, which can truly happen within our lifetime. Our discussion today is going to revolve around how technology has forced all of us to think and act differently, not just from a business model perspective, but more importantly, how we approach engagements of our various communities, aka marketing. And on that note, I'd like to turn it back to you, Chino. Thank you very much at mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Thank you so much, Ms. Amor, for those wonderful words. Now it is my pleasure to also introduce our next speaker, our next keynote speaker. He serves as the president and CEO of Union Bank of the Philippines. He is also the chairman of City Savings Bank, the thrift bank subsidiary of Union Bank. He was just recently named the International Bankers 2021 Banking CEO of the Year in Asia. He was awarded the 2020 Asia Pacific DX CEO at the IDC Asia Pacific Digital Transformation Awards. He was cited by The Asset as Digital Banker of the Year 2020 for Asia Pacific. He was also previously recognized as Best Banking CEO in 2018 by the European Financial Publishing Group and as the Banking CEO of the Year for Asia 2018 by the International Banker. He has a stellar track record in banking spanning more than 25 years of experience. After becoming president in 2016, he launched Union Bank's digital transformation, making sure that they complete the journey with a promise that no one gets left behind. Prior to Union Bank, he headed Citibank Philippines Global Transaction Services Group. Before banking, he was with Procter & Gamble Philippines. He is a product of Harvard Business School, Advanced Management Program, and De La Salle University, where he received his mechanical engineering degree while garnering the prestigious Brother Gabriel Cannon Award. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Edwin Bautista. Sir Edwin, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. And thank you very much for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to this conference because it's quite different from the ones that I normally am being invited to. I normally get invited to talk about technology, blockchain, banking, economics, and they never invited me to talk about the topic that I always wanted to talk about, and that's about marketing. You know, as you had mentioned, before joining banking, I was in the FMCG world, and I was the brand manager of Safeguard, who introduced the first variant, the gold variant. And before that, Safeguard only had one color. It was the gray color. And for many years, we resisted adding a variant. And I was there when that happened. And I understand after I had left, the brand had reached a market share of over 50%. So I'm quite proud of that. The other one is, you know, when you get an email saying that you're being invited by Dr. Philip Kotler to talk, as a marketing person, how do you say no? I mean, the first in college, our book was marketing management by Philip Kotler. In business school, the marketing textbook was marketing management by Philip Kotler. So how could you not do this? Anyway, just to give you a preview of what I will be talking about in my in the session that I've been assigned to, I will be sharing our 7 learnings from our transformation journey. So I condense it into what I call the 7 learnings, but it actually chronicles our journey from the time that we had to create a burning platform. You know, the most difficult part of digital transformation is the first step. And as they say, you can take the horse to the water, but can you get the horse to drink? And we were in that situation in the beginning. And as a marketing person, well, I will not tell you the whole story, but as a marketing person, this is where the rallying drive, the rallying call that I gave was digitize or perish, which actually was lifted straight out of the prognosis of one of our consultants. Okay. Then part of it was the technology that we had to put in place. Now, why technology? Because the disruption was being brought about by technology. And the way to fight the disruption is to harness technology in the same way that your disruptors are harnessing it against you. You know, at the time, the story was the fintechs were going to eat our lunch. And then, you know, I told the board and we told ourselves, look, there are 2 things that we do in banking. We move money around the world. And second, we lend money. And the fintechs are supposed to dislodge us from this. And we said, how the hell are we going to be dislodged when this is what we do? Banks have been moving money around the world since the time of the Templars, the Templar Knights. Banks have been lending money since the time of the Medicis. Oh my God, are you saying that during our watch, banks will disappear only because some new kid on the block who knows nothing about banking harnesses technology to deliver a superior customer experience and at a lower cost? Okay, so we said, what is it that they have? Well, they can use technology. Yeah, but we went to Microsoft. Microsoft said, oh, the same technology that they have, we can also offer you. In fact, we probably prefer you because you have deeper pockets. Okay, strike 1. Second, They're agile and fast. We might be slow, but being slow and fast, it's in the mind. We may be slow because we did not practice and exercise. But look at the best athletes. They got there because they also exercise. Can we exercise our way into that agile thing? It's a question of commitment. And what better way to motivate and say, if you don't do this, you will die. So digitize or perish. So we had no choice. It was an existential problem. So we pursued technology. To go all in on the technology, we had to also convince ourselves that, how do you rally the troops? Okay, using my marketing hat, I said, we aspire to be a technology company, also a bank. And this was a big shift to the organization. Imagine, we've always prided that, we've always said, we're bankers. In family gatherings, why is my mother so proud of me? Because my son is a banker. Now here we are saying, we will be a technology company, also a bank, in order to survive. All right. But not enough. We bought the technology, and for 2 years, nothing was happening. So I was really getting concerned. My God, nothing is happening. We need to start getting low-hanging fruits. We needed to start to show that there are results in this amount of money that we're spending on technology. And that's when we realized that you need people transformation. People need to be there to make use of the tools that you have already invested in. The end product of transformation was to provide a superior customer experience, a lower cost to serve, and faster rate of innovation. We said that in the beginning. Okay. But without people working on it, nothing's gonna happen. And this is where we launched that no one gets left behind. What it means is every union banker has a seat on the train, a ticket, but you need to show up and be there for the transformation at midnight or the train leaves. But we will train you, we will upskill you, we'll provide all the different support needed for you to be able to do a good job in this transformation journey. And you know what? They delivered. And when we got the people to work, that's when wonderful things happen. All of a sudden, our selling effort improved. All of a sudden, the rate at which we were able to deliver the new innovations improved. It was like, oh my God, it's a different organization. And we started winning awards. In the beginning, I was afraid that people will run away and say, oh, this is too difficult for me. And we will have so toxic an organization that people are going to leave us in droves. The opposite happened. We started winning best place to work for. So when people started to see that, we were successful, they started getting confidence. And I should say, success breeds success. You champion the heroic efforts, they get confidence, and they do more. And to me, it's like, I was amazed with the talent and the capacity of people to even do the additional mile. So it's like, weightlifting. Can you lift another 1 pound more, 1 kilo more? And every year it's 1 kilo more, 1 kilo more, 1 kilo more. And you'll be surprised at what people can do when they are properly motivated. So I'm going to talk about that. But here now is the other thing. To me, this is all a marketing exercise. The biggest problem that I think we should all watch out for is for us to think that digital transformation is just all about technology. And the minute you start having metrics like, what is the speed of innovation? How many new releases are we going to have in a month? What is the cycle time? You will lose sight of the fact that it's all about the customer. And this is my biggest warning. And we were, I think, slowly falling into the trap. Some of my product managers were starting to introduce innovation for the sake of innovation. And when I asked them, have you checked this out with the customer? And they say, no. So why are we going to do this? Sir, because we will be the first in the Philippines to introduce such a feature. Okay, fine in the beginning. Let them go. What happens? You introduce these great features, no take up. Why? Because it's irrelevant in the Philippine context. What does that tell you? You forgot the fundamental rule of marketing. You're doing it for the customer, not for the sake of winning an award. And so to me, that's quite important. And therefore, at the end of the day, I think the full message is the first part of the transformation journey was essentially to say that this was a technology exercise primarily. So Union Bank aspires to be a technology company, also a bank. Okay, so we wanted to highlight that. But I think for the second part of the journey, it's going to be Union Bank aspires to be other, on top of being a technology company, also a marketing company with a banking franchise. And already I have launched an internal campaign among my people. And the challenge is we want to be the PNG of the banking world. Of course, biased because I came from PNG. But to tell you also how serious we are in this drive, we recently had an opening for an independent director. And in the past, we've been getting people from with a tech background. Well, in the distant past, it was from a pure marketing banking background. And then in the last few years, people with high-tech background. The last one that we got was someone with a marketing background. He was the Asian marketing director of Procter and Gamble before he had retired. So now he is an independent director, and we're really leveraging on his experience and to show that we are serious in this. Now, I'm not saying that we lost our way totally, because from the very start, when we defined digital transformation, it's always been anchored on the customer. In fact, that's how we defined it. Digital transformation anchored on the customer, and the benefits that we were aspiring were all for the customer. I think the only problem is sometimes when you see all these YouTube people talking, what do they say? Marketing is dead. Okay, people don't know what it is that they're looking for, and that's like, that's not what we were told in marketing. So at the end, I realized a couple of things. The tools of marketing have changed, but the fundamentals remain the same, and it's about the customer. And I would say there are three challenges right now to marketing, and as far as at least on the banking world is concerned. The first one is you need to be an expert in digital marketing, all right? But what it is the tools are different, the principles are the same, okay? The second one is you need to harness data science, AI, and behavioral science, because that is the big difference. And it's also, and the communication is not like one way. Before, we dump TV commercials on them and then we hope that the message got through. In the new marketing, it's a continuous relationship. It's a dialogue, a discussion. I do something in the morning, by the afternoon, I already know whether it works or not, whether the campaign works or not. In fact, almost the minute we release something in social media, in an hour's time, we already know whether it's going to bump or not. So we need the speed at which you're able to address is of a different scale altogether. And the last one, and the last thing that I think we need to work on is how do you sustain your marketing efforts? So here's the problem. Right now, a lot of the efforts have been transactional. So we talk about basic features. So speed of innovation, we innovate, then we tell customers about this new feature, right? Until your competitor catches up. Then what do? You increase again your speed of innovation, then you upgrade your feature, and then it's a spiral that continues and continues to go on and on. How do you escape this spiral? Well, let's learn from the best companies in the world, and that is build a strong brand. If you build a strong brand, you may not have to run as fast as everyone, because customers are gonna have that trust in you and will forgive you if there are instances wherein you may be a little bit behind, because they know that you will eventually catch up. Okay, so that's the key lesson: branding. Now, if you look at everything I've said, my God, it's when I was just listening to myself, it's back to marketing 101 all over again, except that the environment has changed, the tools have changed, the velocity at which this is coming to you has changed totally, incrementally, and therefore I think as a leader you have to be prepared for this. So that's what I will be talking about in my presentation proper at some point later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sir Bautista. We look forward to having you in our panel later on during the program. At this point, may I now introduce our second keynote speech. He is one of the most respected business speakers in the Philippines and recipient of the Outstanding Filipino Awards, or TOEFL, in 2014. As an entrepreneur, he's well versed in the field of manufacturing and retail. He sits on the board of Primer Holdings Incorporated. As a broadcaster, he also holds a segment in a radio program called Business Matters at DZFE FM 98.7. As a columnist for the Philippine Star, his column has been awarded Best Business Column for 4 years and a Hall of Fame award in 2016 by the Catholic Mass Media Awards. As an author, he has written 24 books and counting. Many titles have become bestsellers in the country's top bookstores. He has also garnered 2 Anvil Awards for Excellence, Gold Quill Award for Best Public Speech category given by the International Association Business Communicators, Dr. Jose Rizal Award for Excellence in the field of journalism, Communication and Leadership Award by Toastmasters International, Men Who Matter Award by the People Asia Magazine, Philippine People Management Association Makatao Award. He's also ranked #1 in LinkedIn list of top Filipino professionals to follow for learning and inspiration 3 years in a row. Today, he is one of the most active and productive personalities, and his webinar training for both public agencies and private corporate clients have been well received. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Francis Kong. Sir Francis, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for that extremely generous and a little bit exaggerated introduction. Every time I hear that kind of introduction, I was wondering whether you're referring to another speaker or I might have tuned into a different webinar. But thank you so much. I'm very honored to be with you. And thank you so much, Sir Edwin. I learned so much from you in just a very short time given you. I wish that they would have given you a longer time. So as for me, I promise to behave and I promise to be brief no matter how long it takes. Just kidding. You know, I'm in the area of leadership training. Just take a look at where I'm coming from. While we talk about the need to prepare future fit and ready leaders, there was a time when all we needed was to cover the following areas. 1, we talk about the need to develop their cognitive skills. This involves critical thinking, planning ways of working, communications to achieve better flexibility. 2, we talked about the need to develop their self-leadership skills. This covers self-awareness, entrepreneurship perspective, emotional intelligence. 3, we talked about the need to develop their interpersonal skills, mobilizing systems, developing relationships and teamwork and effectiveness. And all of these skills are still important. And then something happens. Now, everybody is realizing to an awakening. We now begin to realize that we need to train our leaders in the area of their digital skills, digital fluency, developing digital literacy, digital collaboration, software use, development of programming literacy, and even data literacy, understanding digital systems. Well, you know, no sane or no person in marketing can ever be trusted unless the marketing decisions are backed up by technological enhancement and application and access to data. And that's why there's no turning back now. Digital is the new default. You know, during pre-COVID days, I was swamped with a lot of invitations for me to do training in the area of change management. Business owners realized there's a need to go into the digital transformation. And my job was to persuade and convince leaders in organizations to embrace changes, primarily focusing on the digital transformation. The thing about change management is when organizations immediately realize the need for change management, they quickly embark into a flurry of changes in systems and procedures and policies, etc. What has been forgotten is that the process has to start with changing the minds, most specifically in the leaders' minds. It was very hard. The resistance was high, and the refusal to change was evident. It's not just once or twice that I heard the six most expensive words in business being uttered. We've always done it that way. Why should we change now? Oh my. As a matter of fact, one huge company started bringing me all over the country to just deliver a leadership training and program entitled Digital or Die. Morbid, isn't it? So Sir Edwin has been correct right all along. He saw this coming a long time ago. And it was very hard. Resistance was high. Refusal to change was evident. And so, and then an effective unplanned event happened. The blackest of all black swan called coronavirus. And from that time on, I went out of business. At least in the area of digital transformation, trying to persuade these people, they don't need any persuasion anymore. More powerful than all the seminars and trainings in the world. You know what? It has been said that COVID-19 is the most effective CTO ever, plunging everybody into the digital economy. Well, one principle we can all learn is this: we do not change even when we see the light. We change only when we feel the heat. You know, all those seminars and persuasion serves as light illuminating the leaders to the need, but the resistance to change is extremely more powerful than the illumination from the light given them. And then everybody feels the heat of COVID 19. Nothing is hotter than the threat of instant business obliteration and career death or stalling if one does not embrace the digital technology. So, digital transformation will continue to accelerate. I even see this in the area of training. Digital technology has democratized learning and training. It has actually enabled me to reach out to a lot more people. I am now doing a lot of training for participants and clients from other countries. And guess what? I don't even have to suffer jet lag in doing so. Even in the area of leadership, there's no escaping the digital default. Leaders today have to be equipped in their digital literacy, digital learning, and one more thing before we forget: digital ethics. And in all those things, it's going to be a very important issue towards attaining success, growth, and sustainability. You know, there's no turning back now. Even in the field of marketing, in the field of leadership, and by the way, one more thing. Every single company now wants to be known as a tech company. Why? They will have higher valuations. And then it is, but to genuinely be a digital company, or is it just another spin or PR or for valuation's sake? Now that is when you're going to see, and that's where you will spell the difference. Every kind of change is, of course, uncomfortable, but only through change can we achieve growth. We want to talk about corporate culture. We want to talk about culture of change and management. Well, it's very simple. We can simplify it by saying an organization culture is simply defined as the way the leaders behave. So if the leaders now are sold to the idea, and they pretty are now, and they champion the digital transformation, it always happens from the leaders from the top and then it trickles down. I have never seen in all my life in entrepreneurship and in training that major change in the organization comes from the bottom up. It has always has to be trickling down. And that's why when there's resistance from the higher level, it's going to be very difficult to achieve the digital transformation goals that we want to have. And so, every kind of change is, of course, uncomfortable, but only through change can we achieve growth. Growth is never comfortable. And you know why? Because growth brings us to places where we have never been. And then after a while, as we begin to reap the efforts of the investments and the attention and the convincing that digital now is the new default and the transformation, once we begin to reap the results and the benefits of which, we begin to wonder, how come it took us so long to get there? And so, as oftentimes, as I keep on saying in my webinars, I keep on saying that the place where we are here now, this is the status quo. And this is the business landscape and the world accelerated by COVID 19 in this change and its pace, in its scope and its breadth. It creates a gap. That gap now is a distance that is called irrelevance. And that distance is going to be uncomfortable for a lot of people. And that's why I keep on saying, trust me, if you don't like the discomfort of change, you're going to hate the feeling of irrelevance a lot more. From the vantage point of leadership training, that's how I see it. Now, let me close by just saying that on the personal level, I run this tiny little consultancy company and a couple of other businesses. And guess where I am right now? I have to find myself to be available in omni channels. So in almost all of the digital platforms, I'm there. And guess what? I now work for an employer. She's now my youngest daughter, Rachel, who's my boss. And she's a very hard taskmaster, by the way. I can never remember the last time she increased my pay. But I have the privilege of the young people now and her team guiding me and helping me and educating me as to the need to always constantly stay relevant. And that's my way of saying, after all the personal resistance I have had, now I'm preparing my TikTok channel. Enjoy the change journey. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, Sir Francis, for that wonderful speech. We look forward to having you in our panel. And now, actually, we will go ahead with our panel discussion. Joining Sir Edwin and Sir Francis will be two other speakers, will be two other panelists. Let me introduce them. Our first panelist has been with Microsoft for 13 years, currently serving as the Chief Marketing and Operations Officer of Microsoft's Philippine subsidiary. With a career spanning over 20 years of working at various executive positions in Fortune 500 companies, he brings with him a wealth of experience in successfully managing businesses, both locally and internationally. His immense passion for problem solving through software led him to also venture into local and international entrepreneurial initiatives, which included establishments of startups from the ground up, from hiring of talent to working on novel solutions like augmented reality, mobile apps, education technology, to productizing branding, marketing, and selling, helped him be an active contributor and part of the knowledge economies. He believes in nurturing of ideas and consistent innovations and feels that Microsoft has the right vision and capability to bring life, the promise, and potential of technology for everyone. He is passionate about translating Microsoft's vision in the future, where every individual organization has the right skills, knowledge, and opportunities to a bit more. Let me introduce Mr. Abid Zaidi. Sir Abid, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Good morning, sir. And now introduce, last but definitely not the least, our last panelist. She's currently the marketing head of Coins.ph. She started her marketing career in FMCG before moving to financial services, handling various brands that range from established ones like Visa to new to market brands like Beep and more recently Discard Tech. She's an advocate for financial inclusion and empowerment and is very happy to see the progress happening in the country in terms of consumer adoption of digital financial services. It's my pleasure to introduce Miss Agnes Padilla. Good morning, Miss Padilla.
Good morning, everyone, and I'm very happy to be part of this event.
Thank you, everyone. And of course, moderating the panel will be Miss Amor Maclang. So may I now ask everyone to open their cameras, and we will start the panel discussion. Thank you. I turn it over to you, Miss Maclang. Hi, Amor. I think your audio is not working. Not working still.
How about now, Chino? How
Yes,
are we?
working. Thank you so much, Amor.
Wonderful. My goodness. That is, I think, the line of 2020, which is you're on mute, right? So thank you for that. Well, to say that those two keynotes were inspiring is an understatement. But I think the real meat and potatoes of this morning would really be in the panel discussion. And I'm so thrilled and grateful to two friends and co-advocates in the industry, both Abid and Agnes. So yesterday, I was very affectionately teasing Agnes. It's yours and Abid's fault that now we all have to act like technologists, to think like technologists. And as Mr. Bautista said, to move at this almost dizzying pace. I thought I was rabid about this until I met, and started working with you guys. Now, a bit ironically, the first time I ever worked with Microsoft was actually in relation to vaccines, because the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has really been super active in supporting Gavi. So that's my other life, public health. And then meeting you, I think latter part of last year, I did mention to you that it's so stark and pronounced how you guys have been reaching out to the community, especially by way of education. So is that your marketing approach, which is to really use tech, not just for tech's sake, but tech for good? Tell us a bit more about what you're doing with the community.
Thank you, Amor. Happy to share, but just take a step back and reiterate this one thing that Mr. Batistida mentioned and Mr. Kong also, that digital transformation is not about bringing in more layers of technology. It is basic. It has to do with understanding that pace of change. For example, if it is technology adoption, how are customers and consumers adopting it, how they're using it. Digital transformation is about marketing, thinking about how to gain that new sustainable competitive advantage. And that's where technology would come in as one of the tools that you would use to transform innovation or transform culture, or use technology to take data-driven decisions. So I just wanted to make a quick comment on that one. As far as COVID-19 is concerned and the effects of that, we have seen acceleration of digital transformation, and that was not just bringing in more layers of technology, but we saw that organizations, for example, Union Bank, thinking more around how we can get most out of technology, what we have, and then see what are the gaps and then bring in more if needed. So, that's the line that the organizations or those organizations that understand what digital transformation is are thinking on those lines, because the flip side to that is, if you think bringing in more technology is digital transformation, we have seen many digital transformation strategies failing. Now, coming to the question that you asked, I think our way of reaching out or doing marketing is to first understand what the communities need, what our customers need, what individuals need, because in line with our mission to empower every individual and organization, there's a need for us to make sure that nobody is left behind. And we think, and I personally think, and I'm a true believer, that there is no better way to empower people than making sure that we are upskilling and reskilling them. Why? Because there was a study by IDC which came out 2-3 years ago where it was mentioned that in the next 10 years, 70% of the jobs would require technology skills. I would say, that time came sooner than later because of COVID. And therefore, when we look at employees working from home, hybrid is the new normal, where there's a need for employees to stay connected, collaborate, work using tools. There is also a hybrid paradox where they want in-person collaboration as well. Now, when we look across our skilling initiatives, it touches all different, the requirements that individuals have, all the way from advanced level trainings. You talked about blockchain and the underlying technology behind it, all the way to digital skills. For example, we partnered with Grab to bring digital literacy to their captains or pilots. And this is what is needed, bringing the understanding what skill gap exists, understanding those communities and those sections of the society, and taking the right content, at the same time, the right level of coaching and guidance to them so that they are able to prepare themselves for the future. So I would say in my view, as Mr. Batistuta said, the principles of marketing remain the same, but tools have changed. Behaviors are changing. There is a need for us to better understand that change across preferences that our customers have. So preparing people, communities, our customers, organizations for the future is something that we are leading with there.
Thank you so much. And earlier we talked about doing marketing one community at a time. And I think you could really talk a bit more about that. But before we jump into that, I'd like to invite Agnes on board. Coins has been a pioneer in championing technologies, especially the nascent technologies of blockchain, right? And you probably have one of the highest download rate. I remember I was there when you guys breached 5 million and everyone had like a celebratory beer. I'd like to understand how you guys have been so successful in pushing this new, quote unquote, new technology. People don't even feel it, right? Even our Masur from Senya actually is on coins and basically is using blockchain without them realizing it. So what's the secret, Agnes, for people to take on blockchain without even knowing that they're using blockchain?
Hello, Amor. Again, thank you. Thank you for inviting me this morning. So from the very start, the mission of Coins has been financial inclusion. Our goal was to ensure that everyone will be able to enjoy the benefits of financial technology, regardless of social status. And one of the secrets that the company has had from the start that we continue using up to now is, ease of use. So we make it easy for customers to be onboarded. In the process, the way they do transactions within the app, whether it's the app or the mobile platform they're using, it's easy. So ease of use is something that we are very particular with. So that's why you can actually open a Coins account with just a mobile number and an email address. KYC is done at the secondary level where you'll be able to enjoy additional benefits like doing virtual currency and having higher transaction levels. But it's always been from the start financial inclusion and ensuring that the technology that we have is available for all those who are interested in using it. So even expansion outside of the Philippines was actually brought about by the fact that other Southeast Asian nations still have a big unbanked and underserved segment, which we believe will benefit from the blockchain technology and digital services that we offer. So we also, aside from that, of course, we cannot neglect the needs of our OFWs who are not just in Southeast Asia, but all over the world. So that's actually one of the reasons also why I joined Coins. I actually just joined Coins this year, but I believe in the mission that they have created for themselves, and I believe in the benefit that the brand has to offer, not just Philippines, but all Filipinos, regardless of where they are in the world.
You know, one of the biggest challenges whenever you want to implement a technology project is proving its worth, right? Or what we call in the space as a proof of concept. I want to throw this to all of you, maybe starting with Mr. Bautista. What was the first ever POC or proof of concept that you had to demonstrate? You talked about it earlier. You needed to show that it worked. How did you start small and then eventually grew it big?
Well, the first POC that we actually had was way back in the year 2000 with the first internet banking, what you call that system. At that time, it was all about screen scraping. We didn't have all of these new fancy things. We didn't know really how to do it until someone had an idea of, let's just do screen scraping. After all, in those days, all the customers really wanted was, we wanted to know how much deposits we had, and there were no transactions. And you know, I was surprised at the time. We were able to pull it through in less than 30 days, which was already amazing speed at that time. So that was really the first experience for me. But another one of recent vintage is when we actually were able to move money, get customers to move money from their mobile account into the likes of Palawan and Luwilier. And I think the way we do it is because actually we rode on the rails of coins.ph, because we didn't have the automatic rails. But because we believed in utilizing whatever was available, believe it or not, and this was during the lockdown, in 2 weeks' time, we had that functionality available. 2 weeks from concept to execution. The ability of people to move money from Union Bank using their mobile app, and for a third party to withdraw it in a Palawan or a Luwilier.
Thank you. I'll get to you in terms of building ecosystems, because you mentioned obviously the interdependency that's very, very pronounced in this room today, right? Whether it's with Microsoft enabling, riding on the coattails of Coins, or even our advocacy, Digital Pilipinas, actually has a lot of dependencies in the kind of thinking and philosophy. But I have a question for you. Being the behemoth that Microsoft is, how difficult is it for you guys to become agile or to execute smaller projects? Could you share a little bit about how does a giant act in a world where nimble and fast is actually the main rule?
Yeah, I think it starts off with understanding really well what is the goal, right? What is it that we want to achieve? And then, as Mr. Bautista mentioned, rallying people behind one goal, and that starts with everyone understanding what is it that we need to achieve, whether it's small or big, whether it's a big project or a small project. And then the second thing that needs to be planned well is to provide people with the right set of tools. So when we look across our digital transformation strategy, starts all the way from engaging with customers better to empowering employees, to making our processes efficient, to transforming products or bringing in innovation. So the second pillar is about empowering employees. So equipping employees with the right set of tools or tech tools is extremely important. But as I mentioned earlier, we have this very strong drive internally as well, which comes from this thinking that what has worked for us as Microsoft in the last 4 decades, starting over with late 70s to now, is not going to work for us in the next 4 decades. And therefore, what are some of the things that we need to do? the first thing is having a clear sight to what is it that we want to achieve, what impact we want to make, and how all what we're doing is aligned with our mission. The second thing that is extremely important and really materialize all of that is to, as I mentioned, empower employees. So giving them the right set of tools is important, but more important than that is to help them understand what is it that we are rallying behind, what is our goal, what is that impact that we want to create, and then really give them the opportunity to upskill themselves. So this is something that we are doing in parallel. We are skilling, reskilling, upskilling our employees to be able to really effectively use those tools. And at the same time, so that they can work better. And as you mentioned, agility is important here. So we want to move at a faster pace because we need to not just do the catch-up game, but need to also see and understand what the future holds, how the preferences are changing, how the behaviors are changing, what is that trend. So before anyone expects us to act a certain way or give them what they need, it's important for us to really pivot on that data and that information that is coming our way. Because as we know, in the last 2 years, the amount of data that has been created is more than the amount of data that got created in all these years. And therefore, we are ingesting a lot of data. And based on that, we are ensuring that we are not just bringing the right set of technologies to come up with responsive data-driven strategies and actions, but also ensuring that our employees have the right skills and the opportunities to learn more to be able to really align with the customer preferences and expectations. Hope that
Thank
answers.
you. Awesome. Mr. Kong, both Mr. Bautista and Mr. Zaidi has been talking about the importance of education, upskilling, reskilling, making sure that no one's left behind. So in your work in terms of training CEOs to actually embrace this, what has been the greatest resistance or the issue that they raise the most in their journey? Mr. Kong?
Yes, thank you, Amor. Thank you for that question. Ironically, I find that the more successful business enterprises are, the more resistance you find in persuading them to change. And it needs a lot of convincing power to tell them the number one reason for business failure is business success. Why? Because of the typical resistance in the following thing. Number one, the failure to admit that there should be change happening in the organization. I mean, we're the top of we're the top in the industry. Who are you, and who do you think you are in order to have to convince us to change? Number two, the concept of sunk cost fallacy. We've invested so much in what we've been doing, and now you want us to change again? Number three, for me, this is huge. I think a lot of businesses fail, or a lot of leaders fail to understand that one of the biggest disruption now is the demographic disruption. The way the incoming consumers now belonging to the Gen Z. I mean, if you take a look at the social butterfly, that gives us a beautiful insight as to what's happening. So Gen Xers, they even met the introduction of the online modem thing. And then they quickly shifted now to Facebook. So they're so happy with social media. And then when you take a look at millennials, they now say that Facebook is for old people like me. So they went to IG. Guess what's happening now? The Gen Z now calls the millennials the geriatric millennials. And then they don't want IG, they want TikTok. So these demographic disruptions now create new needs and problems. As Sir Edwin said earlier, you still have to focus on the customer. So sometimes what we fail to understand, the resistance comes from how much are we going to invest in this? I mean, you mean to say that we're going to throw away all these things that we have invested so much? And they just fail to understand that you got to think like a customer, no matter how sophisticated your systems would be. And so, two things. You have to understand the problems of the customer so you can provide solutions and meet their needs. Then, if you are able to do so, you're in business. Secondly, you also have to anticipate what the future problems and the needs of your consumers will be. And so we have to make sure that we prepare them for that. It's a very difficult process of persuading them to change their minds toward which they are comfortable with, to embrace an unknown factor in preparation for the future. So that usually has been the resistance. But one good thing about, sorry for saying this, I don't want to say good thing, but what COVID-19 has done and has happened is that everybody now is forced to focus on the future and to change whatever things that they are in the present. So that's my personal experience in the way I've been doing training all over the place.
Thank you, Francis. Now,
Welcome.
Edwin mentioned earlier about working with other technologists or those who were supposed to have eaten their lunch, right? So it's now all about ecosystem building and platform building and even working together. That era, that fast FMCG era where you don't work with your competitor, I think that ship has sailed. It's now all about co-opetition, working together. And that's actually how I kind of distinguish between old school marketers and technology and new school marketers. New school marketers are not averse to working with competition because with the rising of tides, all boats rise. And, I still get the sprinkling of, I don't work with these people because they're my competition. So I wanted to kind of understand your take, Mr. Bautista, Abid, and also Agnes in terms of platform building and also how you look at competition. Mr. Bautista, would you like to?
Yeah, you said it. I mean, the era of doing it all by yourself. Before, the whole idea of marketing is how do I keep the customer to myself? How do I create a wall around it so that no one can dip their fingers into my customer pool? Not anymore. Especially in the field of banking, we're moving into open finance, open banking. My God, if you're not prepared for an open world, you're going to be left behind because everything is opening up. And guess what? This idea of who, people argue many years back, who owns the customer? At the end, customer will tell you, what do you mean you own me? No one owns me. I own myself. And that's the way it is in the future. But I think the biggest difference also is you need to immerse yourself in the new technologies. And I like what Francis actually said when said, I work for my daughter. Well, let me tell you, I have a deal with my son because now with work from home, my deal is you teach me Axie Infinity and I will help do your homework. And at the end, he did very well in his homework. After 4 days, I gave up playing Axie Infinity because my team actually wanted to kick me out. I'm part, by the way, Amor of DV8. You probably know who owns DV8 as a scholar. But they ejected me after 4 days because I only made 2,000 pesos. And they said it's not enough for the whole team to make money on. And I thought I was playing already quite well. So I tell you, that's the new world. We learn from the kids. And now he tells me, hey, I did my job. I learned from my homework, but you failed on your Axie Infinity. I tried.
I didn't even try, right? But yeah, we're team. Yes, I forgot we're teammates, right? Yes, but amazing world. Now,
so are we teammates? Are you DV8 as well?
yes.
Why?
Yes,
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
See, that's
We've
the
been
thing. You
outed.
don't know who your
We've been
teammates
outed.
are, and you're actually part of the same
Teammates.
metaverse.
We're literally playing for the same team. Now,
Okay.
sorry, Abid. How do you feel about working with competition?
I'll share with you this real story. But I just want to make a remark here first that cooperation and competition are extremely important in today's world because what is happening with cooperation is you are actually giving or bringing forth more options for your customers. So you're making your offer richer, which you won't be able to do if you are working in an isolated fashion. what I wanted to share was 10 years ago, I remember we would actually go into a meeting, have a discussion with customer on how solid our platform is with features and so on and so forth. And invariably, a discussion would ensue about, okay, how do you compare it with open source? How do you compare it with Linux? And we would bring up our battle cards. We'll say, you know, we can do this and that. This is what our capability is. And we would leave the customer kind of thinking, oh, this person does not understand my requirements here, because yes, I need his solution, but his solution is not going to help me with all that I need. Fast forward to 10, 15 years now, we actually, and just kind of linking it up to the topic of today's marketing, we actually ran this campaign, Microsoft loves Linux. Why? Because with the advent of cloud, we are now saying we'll give our customers more options. So you don't have to use just Windows Server or use our development technology or .NET to make your products. You can actually work on open source and use our platform for that, making their work more agile by bringing in features that would help them do what they want to do with their preferred set of tools. So yeah, that's my answer to your question.
And in our fintech speak, it's all about interoperability, right? Just a mouthful, but a sexy concept nonetheless. Agnes, I'm curious, being a marketing person, maybe during the fast-moving consumer goods time, it was all about just talking to consumers, your agencies. But one of the things I've noticed, and maybe part of my frustration with many agencies, is that now they have to embrace the fact that it's not just about your end consumers. You have to talk to various constituencies, communities, government, etc. How have you seen your role evolve from 12 years back when you started with FMCGs and now, right? It seems to have expanded. It's not just about market share, growing the market, but even making sure that many of your constituencies are happy, especially with the attendant risks that Francis mentioned earlier in technology.
Sorry, Amor. I just have to go back to what I think a key discovery for today, particularly for Sir Edwin, is that one of the players who tried to kick you out is actually Amor. Was that actually? So going back to answering the question, I think the key change in marketing, as a marketing person, 2 decades ago, without revealing my age, our key KPI was really market share. Your brands are very selfish when it comes to the customers. They have to love you. They have to use only you. But now we don't even look at our competitors as competitors, but actually as potential collaborators, because the game has changed into trying to bring the best possible solution or the best possible product to our consumers. And if that's something that we cannot do on our own, then we reach out to people who can do a better job of, delivering that particular service. So I think that's a major change that has happened. For a marketer, it's not just about talking to consumers, doing C2C communication, or it's not even B2B even. It's building an ecosystem. So talking to consumers, talking to potential collaborators, building a community that in the end, the real goal of marketing is really to answer consumer needs. And we're getting there. With all these technologies are actually helping us get there.
Thank you. Just a few weeks back, I had a chat with a superpower who shall remain unnamed. And they were asking me, what is it that we can do for you guys in the Philippines in the fintech space with regards to open banking? And I said very politely, being the little brown Filipina that I am, I said, sir, you have 10 banking licenses. Europe has 15. Asia has 40, right? The Philippines has 6. So actually, sir, what is it that we can do for you? And it felt good being a technologist and being Asian. And, a bit, we've had these discussions before, and I want to throw it to all of you before we close. What do you think is a special role that the Philippines has not just in marketing, but more importantly, in this technological discourse that's really happening globally. Because the shift seems to be more Asian, and increasingly the role of the Philippines is more pronounced. Who wants to start? Age over beauty or beauty over age? Who'd like to start? Maybe we'll start with beauty over age. Agnes?
Okay. Actually, I'm a big believer in the benefits and the unique features that our country has, particularly in becoming a pioneering market, not just in Southeast Asia, but actually globally. For tech companies, we have a very rich talent pool of young, very smart, technologically driven people. And then aside from that, our market is actually composed of young, tech-savvy, tech-hungry potential consumers, which makes it very ideal for testing out or pioneering innovative products. So there's a big boom in cryptocurrencies and virtual assets that's happened in the recent past. And one reason why Coins was able to actually ride on that boom is because of our talented employees who were able to act fast. Not just act fast, but act fast in a smart way. So yes, I think that those main features are what set apart our country from other countries, not just in Southeast Asia, but globally.
Mr. Bautista, what's next for Union Bank?
Well, as you know,
Next is
you helped us.
Asia, borderless.
Well, you helped us coin this term Teka Pilipinas. I remembered. So it became our advocacy, and the whole idea is how do you harness technology, at least in the area of banking, so that we can achieve inclusive prosperity and help tech out government and corporations to become globally competitive. It's like when we started, we just wanted to survive Union Bank, and then we started winning a few awards in the region. And and we said, my God, if we can win the DX Transformation Company of the Year in Asia Pacific across all the companies in Asia, that gives you confidence that the Filipino can. I think that's the key thing. And the nice thing about this is a software revolution right now. Hardware, okay, kind of difficult if you don't have those big computers, but software, I think we have the talent and we have the smarts to see how it can be applied. I think that's where we can make a difference.
Thank you so much. Mr. Kong?
Oh, well, while listening to you discuss brilliantly about all of these things, starting with competition, brings me back to that very nice 30-minute conversation I had with Simon Sinek in New York when he talked about his latest book, The Infinite Game. And he says, don't kill your competition. You got to have competition because if your competition is gone, your business will fail. And they keep us, we can now collaborate with them, join resources, and the old style of thinking, for me to succeed, you got to fail. For me to live, you got to die. That's as ancient as typewriters, all right? And so what I find right now is amazingly, go to another guy that I follow and I watch him, I've listened to him, the brilliance of the Jim Collins saying, we have to embrace the brilliance of the both end. It is not either this, it should be either this, it should not be either this or either that, it should be both end. And so the funny thing in where I operate right now is this. As technology become more ubiquitous, there is a corresponding need for the higher demand in terms of soft skills. That's very amazing. And so the critical leadership skills now that are needed all over the place happens to be, problem solving skills, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, and all of those things. So we have to understand technology as a platform is an essential tool we cannot afford to miss out. But don't forget the human side. As a matter of fact, more books now are turning out with terms like my favorite, my hero, Tom Peters, came up with his, according to him, his final book entitled Excellence, Extreme Humanism. Gary Hamel comes now with a new book, Humanocracy. And Kim Scott of Google has long before COVID happened talked about radical candor and all this empathy management thing. So it enables us to embrace digital transformation as an effective tool and yet harnessing the humanity side, because at the end of the day, I think it's still going to be humans driving systems and not the way around. So it's a tool we need to embrace, but we need to open up our perspective. And the country is blessed with a lot of brilliant, creative guys and players. Some of the best animators in the world are Filipinos. If we can also convince them and change their mind to widen their perception now and to embrace entrepreneurial approach and sight and viewpoint in looking at things, I think we'll be surprised at what we can achieve. So that's my take in all of these things.
Thank you,
for
Francis.
asking.
Abid, you are a prime example of what I've been talking about in my talks, which is the reverse diaspora that's actually happening. We used to export all our best and brightest overseas, but now we seem to be attracting. Ron Hose is an example. You are an example of a reverse diaspora where the best and the brightest of the tech world seem to gravitate and choose to domicile in the Philippines. So why the Philippines?
I would say, going back to what Mr. Kong said, we want to leave with empathy. And I think this is where the slogan comes from: nobody's left behind, which means equitable access to all the different resources and opportunities for people. Now, when we look at how we are driving things aligned to that thought process is inclusive access to technology and then closing the skill gap. Why? Because this would really empower people to decide for themselves what is it that would make them happy, what is it that would improve their standards of living, and how they would be able to provide for their families. Because at the end of the day, everyone wants the best for their families. So this is how I picture it: starting off with empathy, and then bringing in the right set of resources for this amazing set of people who are youth over here, and they want to be guided in the right direction, and they want to be equipped also to be able to really go after their dreams. So so this is our response to that, to really, we have done it in BPOs, right? It started off in mid 90s. We have shown the world what Philippines is capable of doing, and now I think we have really reached an inflection point. And I truly believe we have reached an inflection point where startups is the next thing. And talking about inclusive access to technologies, last week I was a participating judge at Kubo Idea Space She Loves Tech competition, where we were judging the startups formed by or co-founded by these women. And I was not just excited, but also was surprised to see how much talent we have got there and how much potential we have. We were just assessing 10 of those startups, but I can tell you there are hundreds of out there that require our guidance and partnership. So yes, I think the future looks bright to me, and we want to ensure that we are contributing in our own small way. But I think the collaboration would really create that scale that the nation needs.
Thank you so much, Abid. And I think on that note, we'd like to close this very interesting panel. But before I turn it over to Chino, I would like to thank Edwin, Abid, Agnes, and Francis, all friends. I think we're all tied by this proverbial Chinese string together. And I think in closing, what I'd like to leave all of you is, it's not just in the field of technology or finance, but also in marketing, where Filipinos are really making waves globally. And as a final note, and this is something, Mr. Bautista, that you have unwittingly taught me, which is leaders make movements and movements make leaders. So maraming salamat po at mabuhay po tayong lahat in Digital Pilipinas. I turn it over to you now, Chino, for our closing. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Miss Amor, and thank you so much to our wonderful panel for that fantastic discussion. Now, just to give the closing remarks, may I introduce our speaker. She's the president of Prime Trade Asia, which is the country partner of Kotler Impact and World Marketing Summit Group. She has been organizing events for 30 years, trade fairs, conventions, corporate events, seminars, on-the-ground activations, and other marketing-related activities. She is a professional events organizer. May I introduce Miss Irene Lauren. Miss Lauren, good morning po.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I'm very thankful for Kotler Impact and the World Marketing Summit Group for putting this EWMS, or the Electronic World Marketing Summit, together through the leadership of Dr. Fahim Kibria. And we are just the enablers here in this part of the globe. I would also like to thank, I'm very grateful for Digital Pilipinas for making this press conference possible. And of course, to our esteemed speakers, whom you will also see during the main event on November 6 and 7, starting with Amor Maclang, who is behind this biggest tech-enabling platform. I also wish to thank Edwin Bautista, Francis, Agnes Padilla, Abid Zaidi for an engaging and informative morning. Not to be missed, of course, is Chino, who has been on top of things and who engineered, together with Amor, all of this. But last but not the least, I would like to thank the media, who is, I believe, covering this event this morning, and all the viewers who took the time to join this press conference. And before we close, allow me to do some plugging by saying that I would like to reiterate our invitation for everyone to join and be part of this most prestigious international marketing conference. This is really for everyone who want and need to upgrade, change, and sharpen their tools to be ready and catch up with this digital transformation. The EWMS 2021 program is packed with over 100 top-notch international speakers. Trade and economic ministers will be around. International speakers such as the CEOs, CMOs, and COOs from brand giants and turnaround companies. Lecturers from top business universities will share amazing pandemic success stories to a diverse audience. Marketing professionals, business leaders, government leaders, entrepreneurs, academicians, and students in business courses. I'm sure the speakers' cutting-edge ideas and amazing insights are guaranteed to boost your marketing excellence, empathy, and competitiveness, or shall I say, collaborations, your creativity quotient, which we actually, if you really notice, the acronym is MECQ. That's our MECQ. So you can fortify your business or organization and be ready for any future business challenges. You can have all of this for only 1,500. Imagine that. It's such a small price to pay for a lot of learnings, and plus a lot of valuable perks. So you may visit our website to know more about the event, www.ewms-philippines.com, to know more about this event and to buy your tickets. So I hope to see all of you and share this information to as many possible, to your employees even. And I hope to see you there on November 6 and 7. Thank you very much. Mabuhay. Mabuhay tayong mga Pilipino.
Thank you so much, Miss Lauren. And with that, we would like to conclude our program this morning. Thank you all for those who listened. Thank you to the media who has been covering. But most of all, thank you to our speakers who shared their time and knowledge with everyone today. As Miss Irene noted, please join us for EWMS 2021 in November. Now have a pleasant morning, everyone. Maraming salamat at mabuhay.